The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Has MJF just cut the promo of the decade? But is he even still employed by All Elite Wrestling? Welcome everybody to Bucklebomb Entertainment. I am in Luke Anthony Walsh. That is the mean queen of Syracuse, New York City, Sarah Visick. And my goodness gracious me, these shockwaves are continuing to be heard around the world after Max Friedman cut a promo of a lifetime that has left the wrestling world speechless. Sarah, take it away. I am lost to words.
In the span of a week, we have AEW's one of their biggest pay-per-views. WWE has two premium live events coming up this weekend with NXT In Your House and Hell in a Cell. And all we're talking about is MJF. Every couple hours, there's something new.
It's not even MJF. It's Max Friedman. It's full on. He got in the ring. The scarf went away. It was Max Friedman talking. And for those 8 minutes, he opened fire. He referenced WWE. He talked about New Japan. He, in one of his lines, final lines, he said, "Tony, I want you to fire me. Don't count me down, you piece of shit. You shut your mouth. Tony, look at me. I want you to fire me. You fucking mark. Fire me. Fire me. Fire me." And the very latest update we can provide for you at the moment is that MJF does not appear on the roster page of All Elite Wrestling. Is it a work? Is it a shoot? Is it a shoot work? Is it a work shoot, brother? I don't know what it is anymore.
You know, it's a work. Obviously, some parts are, shoot, they're scripted. That promo had a lot of heart, had a lot of heat last night. I would say it was probably a shoot promo, but bullet points go out here, talk about this, talk about this. That's all the internet's talking about right now is this whole MJF thing a work? Is it not? Because once it started over the weekend with the not showing up for a meet and greet, which fans paid $500 for, people were generally concerned. Oh, it can't be work, That's a lot of money to screw fans out of. However AEW compensated those people, there's different things going around. Then you hear about the plane, people just different things lead up to whether or not you think it's a work. At this point, I would say I'm probably 98% sure it's a work.
I mean, nobody could have anticipated going into Double or Nothing weekend that more people will be talking about MJF versus Wardlow than the main event for the world title. And the way that it has unfolded and the twists and turns and, the plane ticket. Was he playing slots in the casino? Apparently he just about showed up before the start time and then left straight afterwards. Like, we understand Maxwell Jacob Friedman is frustrated with Tony Khan. And as he addressed in his promo, WWE guys are being paid 3, 4, 5 times more than he is. And he's been there since day one. Since Double or Nothing 3 years ago, he was there in the Casino Battle Royale. It's legitimate, validated claims that he is griping against. And like you said, he is the draw. He is the person that people are going to be talking about and have been talking about. His feud with Cody Rhodes, his feud with Chris Jericho, his feud with CM Punk. All of them have been stellar, phenomenal work. Even with his recent run against Wardlow, people were drawn in and sucked in to the narrative that he was telling. And ultimately, the crowd started to boo him and called him unprofessional at the beginning of the promo. By the end of them, they were cheering him. That was just how groundbreaking of a promo we all witnessed.
I mean, the fans can certainly appreciate a really good, a good promo. They know when they see it. It certainly brings back memories of, the pipe bomb from CM Punk, Samoa Joe when he had his own pipe bomb and Impact. You can go back. There's a couple, some version one with Paul Heyman, whatever. I mean, we've seen this a couple times.
We really have. Go on.
Yeah. The next thing you know, you hear, fans caught footage of CM Punk coming out, after the screen blacked out, chasing MJF through the crowd or to the crowd, whatever. So now do we get CM Punk versus MJF soon for the world title?
Yeah, and obviously that is the big question. But who knows what happens next? It could very well be a shoot. It could be that MJF has gone from the company. This is the same 2 or 3 weeks that we have seen Sasha and Naomi walk out of WWE and leave their women's tag team championships behind. I mean, if only we had a more expert analysis on All Elite Wrestling. Oh wait, we do. His name is Gary Joe. Gary, good evening. We are still feeling the shockwaves from what Max Friedman came out with. Sarah's given her thoughts. What are yours?
What a perfect segue. I did not know you were talking about this. I was like, you know what? It's after 7. I want time away from packing for my upcoming move. So, yeah, man, what a huge moment for that show last night for sure. More I digested it today. Tony Khan really went all in for the show. That is no pun. The way Max delivered that, was just so much. Just the realism to this is amazing. All of us were pissed off at what he did last Saturday at the Fan Fest to everything that he spent Poland. And me and Sarah was talking about this a little bit in the chat this morning, that it's hands down a really, really good work right now. It is definitely going to be maybe this Austin versus Vince McMahon type storyline that we saw years ago. If this is going to give AEW buzz, dude, I'm all for it. Because when you get a non-AEW fan that is just either going to criticize the company, that just doesn't give a shit about the company, you do something like this, removing his stuff on the AEW shop, to removing his name on the AEW website for the roster page, everything. Make this legitimately feel like everybody that strongly believes he's gone, which if he was really in fact gone, he is indeed fired after what he pulled last night. So, and they censored him, but I know that was a little long there, but man, Luke, let me tell you, that really has everybody talking, and this was very smart because of the executives was there for getting a new deal for 2023. And I mean, this is what I mean by TK, man. He really went balls to the wall on this one. Very, very risky, but I think the payoff is really good. So you're gonna see more new viewers every single week for Dynamite, and those new viewers are the people that's never seen AEW before. These are the people that's going on the internet today and be like, "Oh, I really want to watch that promo. I want to see what AEW is really getting talked about with this MJF, with this company, and whatever they're doing, man, it's working." So that's what I think about that. I know that took forever, but again, it's a good time to be an AEW fan, man. Let me tell you.
Yeah, there's definitely no better time to have the executives around than this weekend. See all the buzz they're creating.
Exactly, and I guess the alternative situation that we're looking at here is Max Friedman does a Brian Pillman, is that this is a whole work shoot that he's going to leave the company, and then who knows, he might go over to WWE and screw Tony Khan and sign with Vince McMahon 2 years ahead of schedule. There's so many other outcomes out of this. You both think it's a work. I'm still on the borderline where this could genuinely be a shoot, but it's MJF, or it's Max Friedman. I'm still referring to him as MJF because it's still that enticing for a character to be like this. Who knows what happened next? And I think we have to move on because we'll be waffling on for hours on end as to what happened next. Because in the segment right before it, Hiroshi Tanahashi just came out and challenged CM Punk for the Forbidden Door. I mean, what? What?
It's amazing, man. This is what I'm saying with AEW. It's just the land of surprises. I used to call it the new land of opportunity, but now it's just a land of surprises. Like what they do, it's just mind blowing to me. I said this on multiple forums. I really feel this was probably the best Dynamite of all time. Everything they did was just so damn good. And this moment here, it was just great, Luke. I mean, yeah, it was speculated throughout the day, Tanahashi and CM Punk. Yeah, sure, some people wanted Kenta versus CM Punk because, GTS versus GTS. Honestly, I was hoping somebody a little bit different, and I'm glad it's Tanahashi. So, but hopefully the next 3.5 weeks, CM Punk really works up on his little in-ring performance because he needs to work on that if he's going to go up against one-on-one with Tanahashi. So,
but you know what they say, cards subject to change.
That is true. That is true, sir. What do you think, Luke?
I mean, like, you could have a tombola full of AEW stars and New Japan stars and pick out some phenomenal matchups. And I think Tanahashi against Punk is certainly one of them. I mean, what one thing we're hearing is we won't get Okada versus Page. I think is one thing that won't happen. And obviously the card will take further shape in the weeks to come. But for the one of the first matches to come out of that's a pretty biggie. But I mean, if I was to give you both the magic pencil and book the next match that we could see on the card, who would you be choosing? And we'll go with you, Gary, first.
I like one that Brad mentioned earlier in the chat. I would love to see Moxley and Juice Robinson for the IWGP title. My biggest fear with that, though, is if it's going to be for the title, I don't think Juice should lose. But that is one match that I would love to see, personally. I think it would make sense for sure. Damn, man. It's going to feel weird for one, though. Like, the one that's going to feel really weird to me is you're not going to see Kenny Omega. I know, I mean, I'm getting Kenny withdrawals lately, and it's too bad he's going to miss this show, man. But yeah, that's one I would like to see for sure. If not that one, let's get Eddie Kingston versus Ishii. That would be fun. You want to talk about violence?
Make it no holds barred.
Yes.
Ooh.
There you go, Sarah. Now you're thinking smart. That would be fun.
There's one dream match I've seen floated around, and this would be really good. In a 5-man tag match here, you have the Bullet Club, Jay White, Good Brothers, Kenta, and Evil versus the Undisputed Elite. Adam Cole, Young Bucks, and Red Dragon.
I mean, in a beautiful segue, we're going to talk about Blood and Guts in just a second, but I mean, it feels kind of odd that they'll be pulling that on a Dynamite and not at a pay-per-view, despite it being of pay-per-view caliber. I think you wouldn't do too far better than that, really. I think certainly showcasing one of the biggest factions in New Japan history against one of the most dominating WWE and Ring of Honor and AEW colliding one-on-one, that would have been something. But I guess that the match that we did get announced is the Jericho Appreciation Society versus the Blackpool Combat Club for Blood and Guts. Not best outcome to see these two teams going at it.
Sorry, you go first. I mean, we kind of got to look minus the steel cage part, this past Sunday, and that was a bloodbath in itself. So add in a steel cage and some weapons. Who knows what can happen? Jericho may fall into more cardboard boxes. Who knows?
Oh, God.
They're not making that mistake.
Let's face it, it was the Walking Dead visual of Eddie Kingston with the gas canister. Just that visual. That man has made himself once again. Like it was just such a spot in that wildness of the match. Gary, do you think that this feud can be taken up to the next level, or would you put in, like you said, the Undisputed Elite era, or put in another team against Appreciated Society?
I mean, if I could be honest with you both, I thought they're really going to save Blood and Guts for the Undisputed Elite versus the Bola Club. I really did. Do I agree this match should be the match for Blood and Guts? Unfortunately, don't get me wrong. The match at Double or Nothing, I thought it was really fun. I mean, I really did. It was just the inside of the arenas, Stadium Stampede, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I guess, I don't know, man. Just for some reason, Jericho Appreciation Society, it's so hard to get behind them. I mean, I thought I would never see the Backstreet Boys in a bloodbath, so, but, oh gosh, I hope they don't wear that attire again, which we will. But yeah, I don't know. I want to say I'm invested when I don't know if this should be the match. So, I know, very unpopular opinion, maybe. So, I don't know.
It's certainly worth seeing, but I think hearing William Regal go Blood and Guts instead of War Games was very deflating for people on this side of the Atlantic, that's for sure. But again, as you said, it was a very entertaining episode of Dynamite. Of course, what other things that we're not talking about since Double or Nothing? We got Athena debuting in the women's division. Ember Moon, of course, having a new lease of life. I mean, if she goes in the same direction as Ruby Soho has gone, then she is bound to be in the TBS or the women's title picture before too long. And I'm trying to think who else debuted.
Bivens there. I don't remember his name now. Yeah,
has debuted as well. And of course, last night on Dynamite, the return of Miro as the Redeemer. I mean, people said it was given away by Lana. Bear in mind the fact that we're not talking about Miro returning because of how insane an episode of that AEW Dynamite was, just goes to show just how stratospheric AEW on right now.
Well, Miro did still get a pop, and that makes me happy. It really does. Because, I mean, quite frankly, he was my favorite TNT champion. So, good to see Miro back for sure. Good to see Athena, and I'm just going to call him Bivens in AEW. I think Bivens really fits perfectly more than Mark Sterling with Jade, so that's good. But I said this in the chat, man. I'm telling you, I know there's going to fluff some feathers, but I don't want to see Athena take the title off Jade. I think that needs to go to Chris Statlander. Because the story right now is Chris Statlander taking the title from, Jade. And then all of a sudden, Athena, which I love to death. I really, really do. And then let's say if she's the one that takes down Athena. Jade. To me, that would be a shitty booking, in my opinion, because that puts Statlander back in line again. Like, what are you doing with her? So, maybe because I love Chris, and I really, really want her to be champion at this point. I mean, but that's just my opinion, of course.
I mean, between Athena and Statlander, one of them is going to take it off of Jade, I think. But the question is when, and I think they keep Jade undefeated until All In September.
I think so too.
I mean, I think let's put it another way. The fact that we are seeing more of these WWE talent that are going to be utilized. I mean, Naomi and Sasha Banks to one side, if they were to come on board to AEW, they would light and fuse under the women's division, which has continually been working on and progressed and progressed and progressed. And I would still argue that we're not quite there yet. We're not had a women's main event on a pay-per-view, but it's much improved over the last 6 months. What they've added with Ruby Soho, what they've added with Thunder Rosa, and with Jay Cargill's run, is that he's trying, and it is starting to pay off. And we have a competitive division. We don't have the same 4 names who are fighting each other each and every week, and that can only be a good thing.
I totally agree with that, Luke.
So hurry up and put a belt on Ruby Soho. Let's move on and let's switch brands, because I guess we can talk about AEW all night and it'll become a review show. This indie promotion called WWE, I've got 2 shows on over the weekend, which nobody is talking about. So I thought we should give them some light. Let's talk first about Hell in a Cell, which nobody is talking about because there is not much on the card to talk about. We could be looking at the main event of Cody Rhodes versus Seth freaking Rollins in the third pay-per-view match in a row that they've had. Gary, I'll come to you first. Are they just preparing Cody Rhodes for a Money in the Bank win, or is Seth Rollins going to finally get a win in this feud and make things a little bit more interesting going into an important summer?
Truthfully, man, I think you should strike the iron when it's hot. I don't think you should make Cody lose at all. I think the story says itself. Like, Seth Rollins cut a damn good promo on Monday. You know, Cody executed it really well. So this is definitely the match that should be the main event. And then Cody goes on to Money in the Bank. It's no brainer that he's going to win the Money in the Bank. So you really don't want to ruin his momentum. The show itself, man, for what I understand, there is no matches that's representing SmackDown, but I've heard the brand splits all over with. But at the same time, I'm just surprised there's not one match from SmackDown announced. I mean, this is what I don't understand with WWE. You've got such a strong depth roster. You know, you got a damn good roster with so much good talent. And what is there? 5, 6 matches?
Six matches at the time of us recording.
But the only one that really invests me, I'm sorry, I know this is going to be very unpopular, but I don't care for the Bloodline match against, I think it's Riddle and who's the others? Is the Bloodline in the match? I think.
No. According to Wikipedia, which is the most accurate source for any wrestling card booking, you've got Cody versus Seth Rollins. You've got Belair versus Asuka versus Becky Lynch in a triple threat for the Raw Women's Championship. Again, not on the cell. Bobby Lashley versus Omos and MVP. Match of the night: Ezekiel versus Kevin Owens.
That should be fun. That should be fun, at least for entertainment purposes.
So, you have 2 titles being defended at Hell in a Cell. You have the United States title, Theory versus Mustafa Ali, and the Raw Women's title triple threat match. None of the heavyweight titles and none of the tag team titles are being defended Sunday. And once again, the Intercontinental title is not on the pay-per-view card.
What are they doing?
Who is the Intercontinental Champion? Is it Ricochet?
Ricochet.
I mean, how many defenses has he had? 2 or 3 since winning the title?
The Intercontinental title hasn't been on a pay-per-view, I think, since 2 WrestleManias ago.
I remember that was the title you had to win before the world title.
Mm-hmm. And now it's like that's until you got to win before getting the 24/7 title shot.
Oh, that's so true, though.
No. I mean, some people have said online that maybe Cody can win it and so can return the white strap to its former glory, because both the US and the Intercontinental title designs are fucking hideous, but it's just embarrassing. The only other match that's on there is Finn Balor, AJ Styles, and Liv Morgan versus Judgment Day. Again, Edge, Priest, and Rhea Ripley, and only one match in the Cell. I mean, bearing in mind, I will just quickly go over last year's Hell in the Cell, where we had Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship. You had Bianca Belair beating Bayley inside the Hell in a Cell for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And you had, what other matches do we have? I think those are the two sort of main ones to sort of talk about. But that cards like that, compared to where we are this year, is just it's madness, utter madness.
And I don't get it because it's been over a month since their last pay-per-view, and the thing that I don't understand either is I shared in the chat, that Raw for like over a half an hour this past Monday had over a half an hour worth of segments and promos and skits, and I don't understand it. You should build something towards a match. And I don't mean to compare two of the biggest companies in the world right now, but then when you get the other company that literally has over an hour of storyline development with their matches, it's the most exciting thing that I want to watch. And this is why I try so hard. I say this every damn time. Try to acknowledge a big nod to WWE for something exciting, which, sure, the Judgment Day match and whatnot should be fun. It should be entertaining. It should be a solid match. But are we going to talk about it the next day? Probably not. And that stinks, man. It does.
I mean, as I hopefully look forward to Clash of the Castle in September, I've got my tickets in case you hadn't realised, and my excitement is building. Fantasy booking how we're going to get there and the sort of what sort of matches we're going to see there. Obviously, Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns being one of them, but we've got Money in the Bank in a month's time, and we've got SummerSlam at the end of July. They really have to do something coming out of Hell in a Cell to be able to start building towards that. Otherwise, we're going to end up with Akira Tozawa as Money in the Bank winner, or R-Truth. We're going to have another Otis. Let's face it. That's the situation we're going to be left with, and nobody wants that to happen to Otis again.
No,
he says
no.
Let's have a quick look at the other pay-per-view or premium live event that we'll be seeing. That is NXT In Your House. And again, a card that's very much the opposite to Hell in a Cell. Very much all title matches, including Mandy Rose versus Wendy Chu, who I definitely want to become women's champion. I love her character and just what she brings to NXT 2.0. I love her work. Bron Breakker versus Joe Gacy. Pretty Deadly against the Creed brothers for the tag team titles. You've got
I'm
Cameron
excited
Grimes
for that one. Very excited for that match. The Creed brothers and Pretty Deadly. That one, that's going to be a damn good one.
Again, if Julius and Brutus lose, they must leave the Diamond Mine, which, A, I might have forgotten that was still going, but B, it's there's fantastic wrestlers, Pretty Deadly. Of course, former NXT UK tag team champions as well. You gotta love to see it. You gotta love to see it. Sarah, which of the NXT In Your House matches are you looking forward to?
The Pretty Deadly tag title match. I've been following them since they were in NXT UK. They were one of the up and coming heel tag team. So I love watching them prove that they're a lot better than people expected when it comes to joining one of the main brands.
I mean, it's just another example of why NXT UK is just so underrated and disrespected week in, week out with the work and the characters that they've got in their roster. I mean, the sooner Ilya Dragunov really makes an impact in the main roster, the better. Because let's face it, if we're not going to get Volta versus Roman Reigns in Cardiff, then give us Ilya Dragunov featuring in Cardiff. Please, please, please. We want our hometown boys in our hometown show. So it's going to be an interesting weekend. But I think that the other point to touch upon, of course, at least WWE have some kind of women's tag team champions going on in the NXT. That is Toxic Attraction versus Katana Chase and Kaden Carter. Dare I say it, and we'll end on this. What do WWE do with the women's tag team title situation? With the fact that they haven't got any reasonable teams to put in with it, the fact that the belts remain vacant and apparently this tournament will be shelved. Do they just unify it with the NXT titles and be done with, and it goes in between the two? Because surely that's the only solution that they've got on the table right now.
I mean, the bigger problem is NXT has more legitimate women's tag teams than the main roster. Main roster women tag teams are two people randomly thrown together who might last for 7-8 weeks. Except I think maybe
coexist? How will they coexist?
Except for maybe Shayna and Natalya. I think they've been together a couple months now, randomly. But kind of reset the division. Tell people titles will return at SummerSlam or something. Develop a couple women's tag teams so they have some legitimacy, and do a 4, 6, 8 team, tournament. NXT, SmackDown, and Raw tag teams.
Well, you must know my opinion. It's not going to be positive.
Then moving on to Luke.
Yeah, we might have to go to Luke first, because.
I mean, I will go in on this one. I mean, what can they do? Because I always go back, and I still can't believe this title has been going for 3 years now, since before WrestleMania 35 in the MetLife. And the way that they competed for the inaugural belts, you had Sasha Banks and Bayley, you had the Iconics, you had, I just should call up the list quickly, but you had so many tag teams that were just bursting at the seams. You had Carmella and Naomi, the Riot Squad, Nia Jax and Tamina, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. I mean, teams that just could justify the women's tag team championships being there, and now this is what they've become, and it's just so sad and so frustrating that this is what we've come to. That NXT 2.0, which has been in the existence for nearly a year now, have just carried the women's tag team division for the main roster and for itself on its shoulders. It's absurd, but they've got to solve it at some point, because as the way things stand with Sasha Banks and Naomi, two individuals who again could be out of the door of the company, could be coming back, nobody knows what direction they're going to go. I mean, poor Sasha, and I said this in the meme last week to Orlando, is that imagine her dropping her titles when her husband has both of the gold coming home. I mean, it must be a difficult time in the Anoa'i household, but it's they have to resolve it somehow. Otherwise it's just going to fall apart.
See, here's the thing: when they have this red hot team that's getting established, perfect example was Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Their characters fit so perfectly together. You add Shotzi Blackheart and who was she with? Was it actually Athena before she got released? I think it was Athena. I'm probably wrong, but
Athena and Shotzi were together.
See, that really fit them too. Everything, those teams fit together, and then all of a sudden, when they're red hot, ready to go, we're gonna take all that jet power away from you. I don't understand it. Either they get excited for this tag team to be put, and next thing you know, somebody either gets released or somebody just they just get rid of the whole thing completely. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I mean, who knows where they're gonna go? It just me personally, I'm sorry, but just scrap it. Leave the women tag team titles down in NXT. Because like Sarah said, like you said, Luke, I mean, they got better depth down in that women's division in NXT than the main roster, so.
We can only hope. we can only hope and pray that that WWE have something up their sleeve. But as we said earlier on about the Intercontinental title not being defended, I mean, who knows how long they'll actually take before they decide to put people on that belt. But also, I think in this entire podcast, it shows how much of a gulf in class there is between AEW and WWE right now, between the amount we've just talked about, one man and one promo and one shot on a spectacular show, compared to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT 2.0, and yet they're the ones who are meant to be the premier brand. It's shocking.
I don't mean to bring up ratings, man, but when you see AEW's demo passing NXT ratings overall, just with the demo, Mick Foley said it best. Don't fix something that ain't broke, because WWE does have a problem. They really do, and they're just in such a funk. I know I say this every time, probably when I'm on here, but it's just mind blowing to me.
Sure, for sure. And we're going to wrap things up there. My thanks, of course, to Sarah Visick and AEW's very own Gary Joe.